thank you. I am Rachel and I'm from Williams Burton, and I'll be talking about Loft on 7th, our building. So this is the site. It's 12 terraces. You've got 7th Street to the northeast. I'm just going to say north because that's up the page. At the time, all the sites around were to be built. We only had the existing 2-storey terraces to the north. So that was our main context, apart from future buildings. An important factor for the whole site was that of the historical industrial feel, use of the area. And in that fact, it's the sawtooth roof and the materials, robust, simple, like brick and corrugated iron and other such things like steel. This is the loft plan, which you can't see very well, but what I'll highlight here is, which I won't show in the other one, is carport to the rear, which is off the rear lane, and then there's a big rear deck over that carport. If I go in closer, you've got, this is the ground floor, first floor and second floor. So from the front, you walk up onto a raised deck. You've got bedroom 3, or a study, which could be used as a home office. Then there's laundry, bathroom, a rear bedroom. Then you go up the stairs to kitchen, living room, the little balcony to the north, this rear deck, and then up to the master suite, which is the master bedroom and ensuite. So I might just run you through some of the ideas that we had from the very start of design, which I'll go through them as we go. So elegant frugality, which was quite a key one. I think it was in our introduction or marketing stuff, which is the idea of building economically, but with the intention of doing it beautifully. So that was throughout the design, lots of different ways. I'll go into some of them, but one of them was the use of polycarbonate, corrugated polycarb for the rear fences, which are actually fences there, and I think there as well. And so it's super cheap material, but just using it in such a way that you're using the beauty of it, like it creates privacy, but the play with the mesh behind it and planting, you could see the shadow, and just using it for its usefulness and its beauty. Perceived space and luxury. So these are really tiny, thin buildings, only 4.1, which is quite small. But the idea throughout was to have a perceived sense of luxury and perceived sense of space, which is through borrowing space. So, for example, you've got down the front, you've got quite a small bedroom, but it opens out onto the front deck. So you've got perceived space. The rear bedroom opens out onto the courtyard. You've got the living room, kitchen. So it all feels like one big space, and then you're using all the views outside, so that you don't actually need to build all that much, but you get the feeling that it's a lot. Breaking down the facade was another one. So when we didn't have a lot of external context, what we really had was the 2-storey terraces, and we didn't want to overshadow them or make them feel tiny, insignificant. So that was just breaking down the facade, which was, 4 different parts, thinking about the roof line, playing with that, having a middle section compared to the heavy base, breaking that up horizontally and vertically, and then you can sort of see it's quite a varied form. But behind that, the idea is that everything's quite the same. It's not a great view of that, I'm sorry, but all of the terraces are pretty much exactly the same. Commonality of items was the idea of just keeping it simple, having as much repetition as possible. So in this instance, you've got the windows, and they did change a bit in construction, but that's pretty much the same as that, and you go up one floor This is the first floor compared to ground floor, and the door changes into louver windows, and then that's the same up on the second floor, and that follows through for all the 12. But you can see that, you know, it doesn't feel like it's all the way the same all the way through. Without the balconies and such, it would look quite plain, but that gives quite a lot to the whole feeling. Materials we used, lots of timber battens, some fibre cement sheeting, Hardy's Axon I think it is, red brick. At this time we wanted reclaimed, but it was a bit of a cost-cutting exercise. It ended up being just plain red brick. The polycarbonate, galvanised wire, and lots of louvered windows. And that's what the front of it has ended up looking like. So you've got the timber battens, the red brick, polycarb, steel, and robust material. So it's not feeling out of touch with the industrial history of the site, but there's a warmth to it, we feel. Activating the street was a big one for us. Bowden was very keen on making sure that it's pedestrian-friendly streets for bike users, for pedestrians, just having it quite safe really. So our big push was to make sure that your outdoor spaces are very welcoming. People are very happy to go out and use them and not feel like they're on the street, but people passing by get the feeling that they're not being watched, but there's noise, there's safety in that, that interaction. So the front decks were raised 800 mils, so people on the street, the balustrade is up here, but if you're up on the deck, then it's down here and you can see out. So we've got that front deck here, and then also on the rear lane, you've got this rear deck, which it's brilliant for the space that it creates and that luxury, but also for the fact that it overlooks that rear lane. So we've got the balconies overlooking, so that's another bit of activating the street, but with a bit of screened privacy, making sure that you can stand out there and not feel like you're on show too much. The front door is just here, and then the front gate. They were very keen on having lots of permeability, and that was one of the ways we brought it into the design. This here is the front deck, which is the raised one. Just a nice little spot to sit really, and that's just one little example of the polycarbonate with the mesh, of which at some point there'll be some climbing plants. That's bedroom 3/study, which is big, perceived space. So if you could imagine that room, it's quite moderate in size, but imagine that without those big windows and without that raised deck, it'd feel completely different. So that's section again, and next photo is just looking at this rear deck again. And then you've got the polycarbonate, which you'll see in another photo. There's climbing plants, hopefully, going up that one. Once again, this is the rear deck, so we've got that permeability, making sure that people feel private and want to use that back space, but people out on the street feel like they've got a bit of interaction with them. There's safety in walking past. So I highlight that again. You've got all of these balconies and rear decks that are overlooking all of this space. You've got windows overlooking pedestrian laneways, and you've got those rear decks. So all of that space is really overlooked and watched, and is, I guess, therefore safe. So if I just walk you through the building now. This is the rear courtyard. That's the second bedroom. And it's nice to sort of highlight that open staircase and just that shared space, I guess, you get through being able to see through there. And then you've got this little area here, which is the bike park, which ended up quite cool. Really simple, like so cheap, the plywood, but it's just giving importance to the bike. And you know, you're walking down the stairs and out the building, it's like, oh, just grab the bike. That's the simplest thing. another thing, this little bit here, this is a little door that you slide open, and then there's a pipe that goes through there, right through the concrete to the front deck. And the idea with that is that you've got cold air coming through the front deck, through the concrete, and then up through the stair. I might come to a section, I'll talk you through that one a bit better. That's a night purge system, so you can open up your windows and get cool air through and get the heat out. So that's that rear bedroom again. Once again, just highlighting that perceived luxury, perceived space of opening out onto the rear. And this is the front entrance, so the door is just to the right, and just talking about materials, I guess, that simplicity of painted brick. Once again, quite cheap. It's a concrete floor, we just wanted to leave that quite raw. Next we'll go up to the kitchen, which is this little area here. So plywood is a major material for the whole building. You've got it on the floors, you've got it on the joinery, stairs. A nice little thing I think about this view is that view down and view up. You've always got lots of space, lots of light. And then this little reading nook, which is quite sweet. And it's that idea of perceived luxury, I guess. You've got that making use of the little spaces, so it could have just been left, but making it a bit special. And this is the living room, and you've got that view over the rooftops to the north. It's in the living room, so they're painted brick, which is, I guess, another bit of elegant frugality. It's a really cheap material, but it's so pretty with the light on that texture of the painted brick. And this is looking back from the living room through the kitchen, and you've got that sense of space again, because you've got all of that view right through. At some point that's going to get built on, but for the moment it's nice. That's the kitchen, and it's quite nice. You can see at the moment you've got those sawtooth roofs, which was part of the design of something we reinterpreted, I guess. Yeah, this is probably a good one to talk through the natural ventilation. So louvers here, 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 here. So you've got natural ventilation through here, through there, and then those pipes go through there, and then you can open the little door there, and then you can get the cool air, hot air rising out through there. It's quite a cheap idea, cheap in practice, but I've heard it works quite well, which is good. And the next one we'll go to is just talking about materials, which is just in the kitchen. So once again, plywood, simple, cheap, white tiles, stainless steel, white laminate. Bathroom, same kind of materials, keeping it really simple. And then up the top, up to this room here, got the ensuite. So it's a bigger view of that one. The next photo I'm going to talk about is this little space here. So before we talked about that little reading nook down here, this is another one of those little ideas, which is a little dressing table. So a tiny little space, but putting in a little bit of plywood and a mirror gives a little bit of luxury into what is quite a small space, which is your bedroom, master bedroom here. This photo back here is just to talk about the plywood handles, the plywood balustrade, the plywood floor, just keeping that material flowing through. So yeah, this is the master bedroom, and once again it's that idea of that borrowed space, borrowed perceived luxury. You've got that amazing view. You're allowed to keep this quite simple, and it feels still quite lovely. And this is the view of the outside, which you've got the sawtooth roofs, which we borrowed from the industrial buildings. And lastly is the timber battens at the front, which I think was a nice way of doing, talking about the whole building is really about doing more with less. And this is just one of the ways, just not very expensive, but gives lovely shadow, texture, warmth to that front facade. So I guess I'll just finish with, while Green Star was just working the right way in the background, it was making sure that we had fans, making sure that materials and appliances were more sustainable, making sure we were linked up to the recycled rainwater, and all of that kind of stuff, but making sure that we were doing more with less, but also placing the pedestrian and the bike at the front, at the forefront of the design, and making sure those kind of Bowden ideas were followed through. That's me.